Emily Thompson had always believed she understood the shape of her marriage. She thought she could sense every subtle shift in her husband Daniel's mood, every unspoken worry, every small flicker of joy. But recently, something in their home had changed, something she couldn't name, yet felt constantly, like a faint tremor beneath the foundation of their life. At first, it was barely noticeable, a soft disturbance, but it was undeniably there. Their house rested in a quiet Oregon neighborhood, the kind where mornings carried the scent of wet pine, and evenings faded into a gentle hum of distant traffic, a place that should have felt warm and familiar. Yet none of that comfort seemed to touch the growing distance inside their walls. Emily noticed it in the smallest things, the sort of moments most people would ignore. When Daniel paused a beat too long before answering her, when he offered a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes, when his fingers brushed hers while passing the salt at dinner light, delicate, but missing the spark they once shared. His touch felt like a memory instead of a moment. Their routines still held them together. They still cooked dinner, they still folded laundry, they still walked their usual evening path. From the outside, nothing appeared broken, but for Emily, everything felt altered. Silence had grown louder. Even the sound of Daniel's footsteps had begun to feel unfamiliar. She sensed a distance forming, thin as fog at first, then thicker, colder, harder to ignore. A distance she didn't know how to cross because Daniel hadn't given her anything to fix. He wasn't unkind. He wasn't cold. He wasn't distant in an obvious way. If anything, he was too gentle, a softness that no longer felt peaceful but heavy, full of longing wrapped in quiet. Every time she caught him watching her with that muted, almost hopeful look, her stomach tightened. He seemed like a man waiting for something he wanted deeply but feared to ask for. Emily tried to dismiss it. People changed. Seasons changed. Marriages drifted through quiet phases. She repeated these thoughts, like beads of prayer, each meant to soothe her, to keep her from facing the possibility that Daniel wanted something she wasn't ready to see. At night, lying beside him as he slept with his back turned slightly, not fully away, but not fully toward her, she stared at the ceiling while questions circled silently overhead. Questions she never voiced because she feared the answers, feared what speaking them aloud might do to the fragile peace that remained. But while Emily tucked her worries away, Daniel had reached a point where silence no longer offered safety. Something inside him had been building for months, slowly, steadily, like pressure beneath winter ice. It began as a small ache, a wondering. Did Emily still feel connected to him? Did she still see him as her partner? Did she still feel the warmth she once did? Not because of what she said, but because of everything left unsaid. Daniel wasn't afraid of conflict. He was afraid of wounding her. He feared being misunderstood. He feared that if he opened up, his words might spill out wrong. So he waited. He waited for a moment where honesty felt possible. He waited for a night where his heart could speak without breaking something delicate. That moment arrived on a storm-filled evening in early October. The sky hung heavy and gray, swollen with rain. Wind rattled the branches outside as the first hints of winter crept into the air. Emily sat curled on the living room couch, flipping absent-mindedly through a magazine she wasn't actually reading, her mind replaying the tension she had sensed for weeks. Daniel stood near the window, his silhouette outlined by the warm glow of the lamp behind him. Raindrops slid down the glass, like slow tears gathering at the bottom. The room felt warm, but between them the air was nearly icy. Emily looked up, and caught Daniel watching her again, but this time, something in his gaze was different. He wasn't hesitant. He wasn't quiet. He wasn't holding himself back. Determination flickered in his eyes, tightening her breath. She sat up straighter, feeling the shift before he even moved. Daniel stepped away from the window and walked toward her. His footsteps softened by the carpet. When he lowered himself onto the couch beside her, she felt the emotional weight of him settle into the space between them. His hand reached for hers, gentle, trembling. Emily's heartbeat thudded in her chest. He began, his voice low but steady. "There's something I need to tell you." The word struck her like a gust of cold wind. This wasn't casual. This wasn't small talk. This was the moment she had feared, sensed, anticipated. Rain pattered harder against the window. The room went still. Daniel inhaled deeply, his chest rising slowly as though lifting something that had been pressing on him for far too long. Emily could almost feel his thoughts moving inside him. She braced herself. Then, after months of holding it inside, he finally spoke. He told her he had a wish, not a complaint, not a criticism, not a demand, but a wish. A longing he had carried quietly because he didn't want her to feel guilt or pressure. because he loved her too much to hand her something heavy without care.